7:42, good morning to you, whatever you're doing this Saturday morning. Hopefully still in bed with a coffee.
Celebrating International Dogs Day, that's what you're doing, isn't it? Shall we have a look and see what's in today's newspapers? And The Sun has America's Most Wanted with that now historic picture of Donald Trump's mugshot.
The Mail has the story of a man killed in his home by a gang of dog nappers. Apparently they tried to steal his Labradoodle. It's an awful story.
And then the British Museum scandal. The boss steps down over thefts. That leads The Guardian after Hartwig Fischer accepted responsibility for failures to respond to warnings.
And The Times has the weight loss drug holding, apparently, the key to curing heart failure. It's a breakthrough which could affect millions of people worldwide, of course.
Yeah, we'll have a good look at that in a couple of seconds, because joining us to look through the papers, Assistant Editor of The Spectator, Cindy Yu, alongside Deputy Editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers. And Fraser, that's your story, isn't it?
Yeah, this is incredible news. So the drug semaglutide, or I'm probably pronounced that wrong. Semaglutide, that's it. Also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. It started off as a drug for type 2 diabetes, and then people noticed that it was helping people lose a lot of weight. And now they're saying that it could cure heart failure, essentially, which, you know, affects millions of people, a million people in the UK, millions of people around the world. Because essentially what they've realised is that obesity isn't just a kind of cofactor with heart failure, it's probably a leading cause. So drugs that cut obesity, this kind of miracle drug, is also going to have all kinds of knock-on health benefits. And it's interesting because, you know, a lot of the times you open the paper, particularly The Guardian, there's all this kind of negativity about these weight loss drugs, saying, you know, it's too easy a fix, people should diet and exercise properly. It's almost as if there's a sense that you have to be miserable in order to lose weight.
You have
to suffer, you have to, you know, go on a strict diet, strictly exercise. But this actually, you know, I think we should be embracing these kinds of miracle cures. It just seems like all-round good news. Maybe there's a few side effects.
I always think the thing with this is because it's not... I think people misunderstand it, because it's not a case if you take the drug and the weight will fall off. It's an appetite suppressor.
Yeah.
So it makes you eat less, which... You know, so you're still sort of putting that work in. It's just you're getting a bit of a help with
And
it.
anyway, the most important thing is that it works.
Yes,
isn't it? I mean,
exactly.
and if you can help people lose weight, then we become a much healthier nation.
And the recent study is finding that it's 3 times more effective than pre-existing drugs for heart failure, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, it is. I tell you what incredible news for drug companies who come up with, you know, it's the side issues, isn't it? When they create something and then realise that it actually does something else as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's
very
just
sweetly
phenomenal.
in the report it said that at a heart conference that this was happening at, the cardiologists had a standing ovation when this result was announced.
Wow.
That's just how revolutionary it is. If there are no, you know, side effects.
The next problem with that particular drug, because we've covered this before, is its availability.
Yeah, there are, I mean, massive shortages because obviously once people found out about its weight loss potential, you know, every celebrity is on it. You'll read Boris Johnson wrote his first Daily Mail column talking about how he tried it.
Yeah.
Jeremy Clarkson's tried it. Everyone in Hollywood is on it, and understandably so, because, you know, people want to lose weight, look fit, and if you can do that without putting in the effort, I'd say more power to you. But it is impossible to get your hands on. I feel obviously very sorry for the diabetics who want to get their hands on it, who are now struggling. But clearly, you know, if the drug companies recognise there's a demand, they will
be making more, won't they?
Yeah, they will.
And I think there are worries about fake semaglutide on the market as well, so that's a concern. So I think, you know, viewers at home should really just get a doctor to kind of...
Yes, don't be buying it off the internet.
No, don't buy random injections off the internet.
No, people do, though. People do. Get it off a doctor.
You can now.
Yeah.
Cindy, you've been looking at the Telegraph. I mean, this story is going to go on and on, I suspect. But more parents think that Lucy Letby may well have attempted or even killed their babies.
Yeah, and the police are looking into 4,000 suspicious deaths of babies, or sudden deaths of babies. And so just imagine you're not one of those parents, one of those 13 cases that the trial did look at. Your child did die in a suspicious circumstance in that hospital. You feel like you've seen Lucy Letby. You know, the kind of... Even if your child wasn't actually killed, you know, the kind of concern, anxiety that you might be one of these affected, but you're not going to get justice. I just cannot imagine. So 2 of these families have now come forward to say that their kids had died in similar circumstances. One of them had a mild genetic disorder that should not have been life-threatening, but again, suddenly passed away, and Lucy Letby was on the ward on the day. So
you can't even imagine how big this is going to be.
Exactly.
It could be ginormous, hundreds maybe, let alone thousands.
What is extraordinary, though, with this case, I mean, because I remember back in my very, very early days, the Beverly Alec case, which was heard in Nottingham, the idea with this, that you've still got people coming out who know her really well saying, we can't believe this.
Yeah.
And that, we never got that with Alec. And that just adds another dimension to it, really. A troubling dimension. I'm not saying you need to doubt the conviction, but it just leaves a very odd taste in your mouth, doesn't it? You just think, what's going on? I tell you what, I feel sorry for her parents.
Oh, I feel
who will be getting abused.
so sorry for her.
she's their only child, you know.
She's their only child, yeah.
Very sorry.
And by all accounts, she had a very happy childhood.
Yeah, I mean, people will always look for sort of childhood in the explanations for this. I don't think you can explain evil in this way. The thing we need to understand more than anything is how it was allowed to go on for so long. That, for me, is critical. I don't think we'll ever get into the mind of a killer like her. But as you say, you know, there are some people coming out of the woodwork doubting the conviction, probably, I think, far too soon. People have set up a crowdfunder on their behalf. I don't understand those people either, quite frankly.
Well, no, I don't. Well, do you know what? I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I think you've got to have an open system of justice where, and if people want to fight a conviction, they can do so, and all the rest. There'll always be people who never believe in a conviction, but at least people can have that discussion and argument and raise money or do whatever they want to do. So I sort of support their ability to do that, even if I don't support what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, no.
Does that sound too? I don't know. But you know what I mean. you know what I mean. But it's just such a utterly horrific case.
Well, I think that's the point. That's why I think so many people maybe crowdfunding or something, because you just can't get your head around it. You cannot figure out.
She's kept denying that she's innocent. Kept denying that she's guilty, and she doesn't have an obvious motive.
No.
There's no, as you say, Stephen, her friends didn't see this.
But also she had no defence in court. There was just no, they didn't really put up a defence.
Well,
except I wasn't there, it wasn't me.
Yes, exactly. And all the doctors were just trying to cover up misconduct or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it is just bizarre to think that something like this could happen. But yes, the question's over how it could be prevented from happening in future. You know, Amanda Pritchard, the NHS chief executive, is going to look into discipline powers for hospital managers, because doctors and nurses are put up to, these standards, but the managers themselves are not. So if they're in misconduct, they should be punished for it.
Yes, and the one who was in charge at the time has since retired to a very large house in the south of France, apparently. He's had to get out of his house in the south of France because he's got the world's press at his gate. It's making life for him completely intolerable.
It must have been a difficult call for them.
Yeah.
You'd never want to accuse one of your staff of being a murderer. I mean, that's a really serious
No, but you do want to
accusation.
investigate.
But you do want to investigate it, and you do want to get people involved to do that.
Fraser, let's have a look at the Mail, should we, and what they're calling Sadiq Khan tyrannical tax grab. Yes,
so there's talk that... could this be Sadiq Khan's poll tax, essentially? The ULEZ is so deeply unpopular. It's going to cost people, £12.50 a day is absolutely prohibitive for an extraordinary number of people, affecting Greater London, Outer London, where, the transport links are not as good. Places are not connected to the tube. People are much more reliant on their cars. The Mail has a little pull-out of all the sort of various businesses that are going to be affected. The Boy Scouts haven't got the right ULEZ-compliant vans, so that's going to cost them a fortune. Lots of cases of disabled people who are essentially going to be confined to their homes, people who are going, expecting to go bust with their small businesses. So it's really, it's crunch time is coming on Thursday. I think that, I don't know, it could be a huge mistake for the Mayor. he's been so adamant that this is it's either his way or the highway.
Yeah, it's tone deaf, isn't it?
It's that ULEZ is the most important thing in the world, and it's going to save thousands of lives. And if you're against it, then you must be a far-right conspiracy theorist. Whereas actually, you know, there's so many legitimate concerns about this.
And it's not just about London either.
And it's not just about London. And actually, most of the people affected by it, around 85% of the people who are expected to pay the fines, live outside of London. And, you know, if you live in Essex, you live in Hertfordshire, it's very easy to, you know, just cross one road and suddenly find yourself in the ULEZ zone. And so the Mail gives an example of a graveyard just bordering Essex. So imagine you're going to, you know, drop flowers off at your mother's grave or something like that, and you're hit with a ULEZ charge for going essentially what you thought was simply a road round the corner. So, yeah, it's not just London, and this issue as well, you know, is in other cities as well across the UK. It hasn't quite got the attention as the ULEZ, but this is.
But he's not rowing back, is he? He's pushing ahead with it.
No, that's the thing, and you know, he could have said, because ultimately this is coming from the central government. Weirdly, you know, there are various requirements on the mayor to clean up the air. He also has to pay off TfL's debts. He could have put up a fight like Andy Burnham did in Manchester. You know, Andy Burnham delayed the implementation of the Clean Air Act there. He said, you know, this is not good for my people. Whereas Sadiq Khan has made himself a crusader for this. He's written a book even about it called Breathe, about the scourge of air pollution. So it's very strange. He's really taken up this crusade in a way that I think is very unhelpful for him, and you know, paints him in a very bad
well,
light.
it's not doing him any favours, that's for sure. We've got to leave it there, sadly, but we'll see you in the next hour. Cindy, Fraser, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
So, given that it's a bank holiday and it's August, what sort of weather are we expecting, I wonder? I don't think it's going to be terribly good. Not for you.